G'day folks, I'm Wren, they, them, and here are 25 queer 2025 releases. So for this list, it's just 25 books that are queer that are releasing in 2025. These are obviously not all of the books releasing in 2025. These are just the ones that I've heard about that I am most excited for, and maybe you'll be excited for them too. So we're just gonna go in month order, and let's start with January. The first one for January is Emerald Road by Orlando Ortega Medina. So this is set in the 1990s when the El Salvador Civil War is happening and a young man is escaping that war. So he leaves El Salvador with his dog and they traverse the wilderness trying to get to the United States. It sounds like it'll be a really emotional time, but a really pivotal story as well. And this seems to say that the boy and the dog have this really deep connection, and I just love human-animal companionship. So it sounds like it's going to be really, really good. The main character is gay, and that is part of why he is escaping El Salvador, because homophobia, basically. Next up, we have Brewed with Love by Shelley Page. This looks so cute. This is about a young girl who is trying to save her family's apothecary, and apparently to do that she has to team up with her crush, who is another girl. I don't even know what to say about this. It sounds super, super cute, and sometimes you just want a cute book to read. Next up, we have This Feast of Life by Cynthia So. This is a adult foodie kind of book. So this is about these two people coming together to eat some really good food and to try and figure out who they are as people. So one of these people is exploring their identity, and I think they are trying to get used to using they them pronouns, which sounds very much like my kind of thing as someone who uses they them pronouns. But this looks like it'll be really cute, and I'm really in the mood for foodie kind of contemporaries with a romance. Then we have The In-Between Bookstore by Edward Underhill. This is definitely right up there with my most anticipated of the year, because this is about a magical bookstore that transports a trans man back in time to his teenage self. Does that not sound amazing? Just the ability as a trans person to go back and talk to their younger self, huge. So healing. And very much what a lot of people feel like they need, but also just magical bookstore. Then we have The Assassin's Guide to Babysitting by Natalie C. Parker. This is a bit of an interesting one where there are some people that have superpowers. They can sometimes be asked to babysit for important families, but they're also being hunted. It seems like this teenager, while babysitting, is being hunted by some bounty hunters and she has to escape. There's also talk about her crush or the girl she likes. So it seems like it's going to be sapphic, which is always fun. Then we have Moth Eater by Linda H. Kodega. This looks awesome. This is about a witch in the Appalachian Mountains, which I love. Appalachian Mountain stuff I think is so fascinating, because old forest, you never know what's happening in there. Ooh, so good. But it seems to be that this witch is trying to either save the forest or is trying to strike a balance between nature and technology. So this is a horror and I am so here for it. There's even a skull on the cover. It's very much my vibe. Then the last one I have for January is Murder in the Dressing Room by Holly Stars. This is very much a cozy mystery, it seems to be, where someone's died and these people are convicted of that murder. But they're drag queens. But it seems like just these drag queens are trying to clear their name of this murder. So I am looking forward to this, but it's definitely outside my comfort zone with the cozy mystery vibe. So now on to February. And the first one we have is The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This is another horror, and it seems to be about this mother and daughter duo that live kind of isolated, and the mother often lets people into their home to, you know, care for them, but ends up killing them, maybe eating them. I don't actually know about that. Until one day the mother brings home this girl and the daughter is like, oh, I like her. So I think she then has to save that girl from her mother. It sounds super good. Then we have Big Name Fan by Ruthie Knox and Annie Ma. Oh, this is reminding me of, that TV show, Someone and Someone. Rizzoli and Isles. This book is reminding me of Rizzoli and Isles. Ooh, so much. Now I want to go watch that. But it's about these two actresses who were like detectives or something on a TV show that ended a while ago, and there was this big like hubbub about the characters should have gotten together. I think also a lot of people wanted the actresses to get together, but they are reuniting and sparks may fly. Now that it's giving me Rizzoli and Isles vibes, I can't think of anything else. And that's okay. Next we have Runnin' No More by J.T. Dippe. This is about two people who are very opposite from each other. It seems like one person has traveled a long way and now wants to settle down in one place for a certain amount of time, but then at an airport he meets this other person who's kind of on the run. They end up having a really deep connection and have to figure out if they're gonna keep running or not. I love the line in this synopsis. It says, in a world where love feels like a risk they can't afford, Aid and Stefan must decide if their fragile bond will be the force that heals them or the weight that finally breaks them. Ooh, this sounds like it's going to be emotional, which means I am very excited for it. Next up is But Not Too Bold by Hache Pueyo. This is a horror novella that's sapphic, and it's about this keeper of the keys and a monstrous creature that is like a spider. Say, an enormous humanoid spider with a taste for laudanum and human brides. Yes, please. Yes, yes, please. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a romance between the keeper and the creature that might cause some issues. You give me like a human and creature relationship, I'm here for it. And then the last one for February is Nix and Tell by Ali Williams. This cover is stunning. I am obsessed. This is about a nix, which is a type of water creature, I believe. And it seems like the gods are playing matchmaker and are setting up this nix with someone. I haven't read anything about the nix, which super cool. Always love to read about creatures. And like, did I mention the cover? I don't need to know anything else except that it's queer and that cover is gorgeous. Then for March, we have They Bloom at Night by Trang Tan Tran. This, again, cover, stunning. It's about algae. Algae is close enough to mushrooms that I am here for it. So it says, a red algae bloom has taken over Louisiana. Ever since a devastating hurricane mutated the wildlife. It sounds like it's going to be really creepy, and I love that. I love me some creepy stuff. So real excited for this one. And then the last one for March is Aunt Tigress by Emily Yu Zhuangjin. Again, I love this cover. It's very, very fun. But this is a book that's inspired by Chinese folklore and First Nation mythology. Super cool. Love that. And like the first line of the synopsis is, Tam hasn't eaten anyone in years. Yes, I love that. In this person's life, their aunt was murdered and they're trying to figure out why the aunt was murdered, and there also seems to be something going on with the other supernatural creatures in town. That sounds fun to me. Anything to do with supernatural creatures I really like, which is probably really apparent by now. And then for April, we have Deadstream by Ma Ramasco Moore. This sounds interesting. So this is a YA horror thriller where a girl witnesses someone being abducted by a shadow figure on a live stream, and she might be next. So she has to somehow avoid all of that. I do like kind of stories like this, like in some horror movies. They might be not great quality, but the story and the idea is very interesting. So I think this could be a really fun time. Next up is When the Tides Held the Moon by Vanessa Vida Kelly. This is, I believe, slightly historical, but it's about this guy who works in a kind of sideshow amusement thing. One of the new amusements is a merman. So I think he's gonna try and save the merman and they fall in love. I'm very much in my like mermaid era right now, and that's like all I want to read. So very much looking forward to this one. Next up is Ollie in Between by Jess Callens. This is a middle grade contemporary book, and it seems to be just about this kid trying to figure out who they are. So it seems like this kid is about to go through puberty and really doesn't want to, which fair. It kind of sparks the need to figure out their gender identity. Should be really interesting, very heartbreaking and warming at the same time, but that's what I like in middle grade. And the last for April is Awakened by A.E. Osworth. This is up there with one of my most anticipated for the year because it's about a coven of trans witches battling an evil AI. I don't need to say anything else. Does that not sound like the most fun time you could ever have? Like, who even comes up with these ideas? This is fascinating. Now on to May, and the first one is Let Them Stare by Jonathan Van Ness and Julie Murphy. First of all, I did not know that JVN was coming out with another book. That's cool. Second of all, this is JVN's first fiction book, not including the picture book that they came out with a few years ago. This sounds cool, and I do really like Julie Murphy, so this should be good. So it seems to be about this gender non-conforming teenager, which awesome, and they really wanted to be into this like fashion program, but they didn't get in, so they're stuck in their really boring hometown, and it says they find sanctuary at their local thrift store. That's awesome. As someone who is a huge op shopper, I am really excited for this, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of found family vibes happening in this. I don't know why, it's just the vibe I'm getting, but I'm really interested to see how a full-length novel will be from JVN. Next we have Kiss Me Maybe by Gabriela Gamez. Again, stunning cover. Oh my gosh. So this is about someone who is a late bloomer, so didn't realize they were queer until much later in life. This person comes out as ace, which love that, always need more ace representation, but their coming out video goes a little bit viral, so they use the internet to help them get their first kiss. This could go either one of two ways. It could either be really great or really not great. It is a book that has some ace representation coming out in 2025, so I am definitely keen to give it a go. Then the last one for May is These Vengeful Gods by Gabe Cole-Novoa. I at first was not excited for this because like you can just tell by the cover that it's a dystopian, right? And reading the synopsis, I was like, yeah, this is kind of dystopian. Then they got me because it's a gladiatorial style game within this, and like that's the main focus. Gladiators are one of my like buzzwords. I always want to read about gladiators. I love them. They're a special interest of mine. So for this to be about gladiators, of course I want to read it. But another thing that is interesting is this main character is a descendant of the god of death. So that's super cool. And I think a lot of people are descendants from the gods and they're battling each other for some reason. Should be super cool. It also does sound like they're using they, them pronouns, which is always nice for me to read. Then in June, we have Winging It With You by Chip Pons. So apparently this Chip Pons is a pretty famous bookstagrammer. That's kind of cool. I haven't heard of them, but I will now. But this is very much my buzzwords as well because it's fake dating. So it's these two guys decide to fake date for a reality TV show, like minutes after meeting each other at the airport. This is good. And then obviously, you know, real feelings. So this sounds like it's going to be very, very fun. Next up, we have If I Told You I'd Have to Kiss You by May Marvel. First of all, great title. Second, great cover. Third, the first words on this are Mrs. and Mrs. Smith. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Smith was one of my favorite movies growing up. Really solidified my bisexuality, which I already knew about, but I was like, yes, because it was Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. What more did teenage me want? Nothing. So the fact that there is now a book that has that similar kind of like spy-ish trope happening, I'm very intrigued, and it's sapphic, so extra points there. And then the last one for June is definitely also right up there as my most anticipated for the year, and that is Vesuvius by Cass Bine. You give me ancient Rome, I'm gonna be very excited. And like, especially in this time period of like when Vesuvius erupted. Ooh, yes please, that is my favorite Roman era. So I am very excited about this. So one of the characters is a thief and the other one is a temple attendant, and together they are trying to flee the city because it's burning, because Vesuvius. That sounds really friggin' good to me. So I am so hyped for this. Oh my gosh. And then the last one, which is in July, our number 25, is A Treachery of Swans by A.B. Paranek. A.B. Paranek's 2024 release, I loved dearly. If you haven't seen it, it was in my best books of the year. Go watch it to see where it placed. But to find out that A.B. Paranek has a new book coming out in 2025, I was already going to read it. But then it's explicitly sapphic. Yes, because the Where the Dark Stands Still, which is their 2024 release, was queer, but it wasn't promoted as being queer. So this one is like, it's queer. Love that. But then it's also a Swan Lake retelling. Super cool. I love Swan Lake. It is a really great ballet. I've seen it several times. I am keen for A.B. Paranek's writing because that was one of my favorite things in Where the Dark Stands Still, is that kind of, oh, they just gave really good atmosphere. This one could also be a little bit creepy, which I'm here for yet again. So that is going to be it for my 25 most anticipated queer releases of 2025. Let me know down below which one of these are you most excited for, and are there any other queer books coming out in 2025 that I didn't mention that you think I would like, because I'm always here for some recommendations. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!